Kathleen, and today Larry and I are here with Adrienne and Tony, and we are so excited to have you join us. Welcome.
Hi, nice to be here.
It's great to see you guys.
Larry's told me a lot about you, and I'm so excited to have you.
None of it's true. None of it's true.
Tony and I met many, many years ago, and he's probably the longest acting acquaintance I know.
Wow. And he still likes you. Wow, that's good.
Are you kidding? What's not to like? What's not to like?
Yeah.
I know. So great. Thank you for being here. So tell us about your journeys. Like, how did you get into the theater business at all?
Wow.
Well, we met in high school,
Oh.
and we met at an audition for the play Oliver. So we've both been involved with theater for 43 years in various forms.
Yeah, I played Grandpa, and she played one of the rose sellers. And the moment she opened her mouth, that was it.
Oh,
No kidding. No kidding. She sang that "Who Will Buy" thing. Who will buy thing? I still hear it.
Oh,
I love that. I love that.
Now, Adrienne, did you go to UNCW as well as Tony?
no, after high school, we kind of went to different schools and dated long distance for a while. So we had an off and on relationship for maybe 20 years before we got married.
Yeah.
We were a little slow to figure it out, but we finally did. So we went to separate colleges, and he studied theater at UNCW, and I went to Radford University in Virginia and studied theater there. And I planned to be an actress, but that didn't quite work out.
I remember you guys were living downtown in Wilmington, and I had to bring something to Tony or pick something up to Tony, and that's when I met you years ago. Someplace.
Yeah.
Wow.
Down off of Orange Street, I think.
Yeah.
Not Dock Street?
I think it was a little further over.
Yeah, but it was downtown.
It was way downtown.
Right.
Near what's the waterfront now?
Yeah.
What's it called? Yeah.
I love Wilmington. It's so beautiful there. My parents used to live there, so I became quite familiar with being like the tourist that keeps coming back, so nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It really is. We really enjoyed our time there, and I loved it there.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I ended up staying when she decided to go to Radford, because it was just all the water and the history, and the art scene down there has always been really vibrant and really cutting edge, and I love that.
What was the first show you were in, Tony?
Well, now we got to go back a little bit, because the year before I moved up to my junior year in high school, for whatever reason, I can tell you exactly what the reason was, because of Debbie Elam. Our final production that year was My Fair Lady, and Debbie was playing Eliza Doolittle, and I ended up auditioning just for the heck of it, and it ended up being one of Doolittle's flunkies. That was the very first time I'd ever done anything like that. And then my sister later on that year, my sister and I both ended up signing up for the talent night at the high school, and she did this Loretta Lynn song, and I did a really bad comedy routine.
Which sister?
Linda. Oh, well, come on, you know how much you love.
Well, yes, yes.
Are you kidding? When we were little, we would do this. She had one of those closing plays, and we had all the Loretta Lynn Conway Twitty stuff going on, and what I would do with that in one of our bedrooms when we were little.
Would you do Conway?
Oh, hell. Oh, of course I did. Of course I did. I can't do it anymore, but back then it was fun. She really liked it, though.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Conway.
Mr. Conway Twitty. Anyway, but that was that. And then when I went to the auditions for Oliver, I just went on a fluke because I'd done My Fair Lady, and there you were.
Oh.
And you should have seen. From that point on, it was very funny because I was able to get myself into the chorus, into the choir. And yeah, that was how I tried to finagle myself in there.
What was your
Yeah.
first show, Adrienne?
It might have been Oliver. I mean, in high school, the choir was in charge of the class theater productions. There wasn't like a drama department.
Mhm.
So I think Oliver was the first time I was actually on stage singing in the choir, and then which was a lot of fun. And then my first actual speaking part was in college. Was at Radford. My freshman year, they did the effect of gamma rays on Man in the Moon marigolds, which is, not done much anymore, but it's a really good play. And
Right.
the drama professor said, we don't cast freshmen. We just don't. We want to give them a year to kind of settle in.
Mm-hmm.
But I really want to put you in the play. And he cast me, and I had a really small part. But yeah, I thought I was hooked before, but once I opened my mouth on a stage and actually said words, I was gone.
Did you play a daughter or the neighbor?
I played the evil classmate of one of the girls who competes against her, I think, in it's either a science fair or some kind of competition, but it was only a small little monologue, maybe half a page, but I killed it.
That's good.
And then I leave.
Did either of you have a mentor as you were starting out?
Well, Larry knows mine, Ann Fitzgibbons, because when I got to UNC Wonderful by the Kmart, I got into her class because it was like an acting 101 class, and the woman was insane, but she was also insanely good.
Right.
I still remember that the first semester, while it was still warm, she had us she had us become a tribe of primates, and we actually went all over the entire campus as a tribe of primates, which I'm sure got us, in a little bit of a hassle with the campus police, but we had a ball, and from that point on, that was it. She started this whole business basically. And a few years later, I was really, really, really happy. Got a chance to work with her daughter, Kitty, in the show that Larry and I did. She was really professional. She was really good. And Ann would not take no for an answer, no matter what you did. And she was probably the one who got me most interested in going to School of the Arts.
How about you, Adrienne?
I didn't really have a mentor. After Radford, I went for almost 2 years and then switched schools, and then kind of just life happened, and I just kind of fell out of acting for a little bit. So I didn't really have an acting mentor per se.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't either. I talk about the fact that I think everyone that you work with mentors you in some way. Like either you say, oh, I want to do that, or, oh, I don't want to do that. It's like, I think you learn from everybody that you're with. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which is great, because that way you get a chance to put together your own style. It's probably one of the biggest things that another one of the people that I worked with, Larry, you got a chance to work with him, was Luke Riscola down at Opera House.
I was just going to mention him.
Yeah. Who probably taught me more about directing and pushed me hard as an actor. There's a story, I'm not going to tell it here, but there's a story that I always do when I teach now about how far you have to go and how much you have to push and how much you have to give if you're actually going to do this. And he really did that, which was great, because it gave me a chance to pass along that kind of thing. And his thing was that, listen, you take from me, you take from me. If you're going to be an actor and you're going to steal from the best.
Right.
That's right. That's right. Have you gotten any great advice, either acting, directing, or from anyone, either of you?
Yeah, so much.
Most of my really good advice has been writing advice from once I started playwriting. I actually, looking back at the mentor question, my actual mentor is a writing professor. It wasn't an acting mentor. So
Right.
I really should probably have
Yeah.
thought about that instead of just sticking with acting.
Yeah.
But I got my graduate degree. I got my MFA in playwriting in 2010. So I spent 3 years in grad school and had a couple of really wonderful professors. And one of them, her name is Jean Klein, who is still a more than a mentor. She's a friend today. And I don't submit anything out without sending it to Jean first, because she'll always be honest and tell me what she thinks, which I love her for. But I think the best advice she ever gave me was to not edit before I've had a chance to create, which for me was wonderful because I tend to overthink what I'm trying to say. And she said, Adrienne, get it out first, and then you can edit it after that. And I think that's been the single most valuable piece of advice I've ever gotten.
That's so interesting. Wow.
It is, because I'm not really a writer, but I've written screenplays and short plays. And if I'm writing a screenplay, I'm already deciding, how can I shoot this? Oh, I can't shoot this. I can't shoot this in a hospital. It's like, no, real writers just write and don't worry about that. And I do have a question just to get off the beaten path. Now, as actors, we say, oh man, if I could just go back and play that part again. But you've written plays. Are there plays now? Do you still feel like you could go back and revise any of your plays because you might say something differently now?
I have some strong views about that.
Yeah.
My initial thought would be no. I think once you get out what you're trying to say and you've said it the way you want to say it, that's it. That's the statement you're trying to make. And you can over edit as much as you can under edit. So you have to be careful with what that line is. But the other side of that is, up until he died, Edward Albee was still revising Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. I mean, after every production, he changed something. And that, to me, is one of the greatest plays ever written.
Right.
So I don't know how, I guess that's individual for each person,
right,
whether you're an actor or a writer, how you want to approach that question. I like to keep things alone once I think I've gotten it to where I want it. But the other side, again, is that things can always be improved. So I'm not sure what the correct answer is.
Right.
Right.
When you've gotten your play out and you think it's complete, that's sort of like a time capsule for where you were. And it's nice to look and see how far you've come. If you leave it alone,
Right.
you can see how far you've grown.
Right. Right. And Larry, you were asking, does she let everyone read it before it's done?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I stopped acting, was because I had too thin of a skin as a person to get to further rejection of acting. But I don't seem to have that thin skin for writing, which is interesting.
Oh, good.
But I think the way I've gotten around that question is that I have about 4 people that I can send something to, and they will stop what they're doing on the drop of a dime and read something if I need it. But I always ask them specific questions. I don't just say, do you like it? Because if you do that, then like you said, you're opening yourself up to editing based on things you don't want to, you don't want to deal with. So I ask them specific questions. Does this character's motive, is that character's motive clear? Is this being expressed well? So I ask them to look at specific things that I think I'm having trouble with. And they respond to those specific questions only, and then I go forward. So that helps me kind of make sure I'm on the right path with getting out what I want to get out without having too much interference from what other people think of it.
That's great.
And Tony's not one of those readers.
Yeah, no. We learned that a long time ago. No. And it's the same thing with acting. If I'm not sure and I ask her to watch what I do, I'm really specific about it instead of, how was the whole thing? Because it's the same way. Then you start getting to this whole obligatory feeling of you've got to say something positive about the whole thing instead of going, no, listen, when you said that line, you waited too long. or when you did that little speech or that interaction with that particular actor, that it was good, but it could be better, and you know it, and usually she's right. Which I think is one of the differences between acting and writing, is because as an actor, all you've got is your internal checklist, and you can't really see what's out there. You can't stand outside of yourself. I think that's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice I got was telling the story isn't your job as the actor. Your actor is to live through it. It's somebody else's job to tell the story, which is really great because she tells a good story.
Oh.
Well, you do, you know. Yeah. When she first started doing it, I was really surprised because I've always known she's had a really good eye for things, and that she's real clear and real honest about what it is that she sees and what she likes and what she doesn't like. And when she started to do the whole writing thing, I went, good, I really love to see what she does with it. I was really intrigued because because of the viewpoints you have on everything else. And then when you started writing, I went, you know what? You should probably do this.
Great advice.
Stick with it.
Yeah.
It's not just what the words that the characters are saying. It's the words that they're not saying. And the play is more about what they're not saying than necessarily what they are.
Which you don't find in a whole lot of writers. And that's one of the really things that I enjoyed about working with her work, is that a lot of writers don't give actors the benefit of the doubt. They spell everything out. If they don't spell it out in side notes and instructions and all that kind of good stuff, then they spell it out with the words they put in the characters' mouths. And that's one of the things that I love about the way you write, is you don't do that. No, you expect the actors to break a sweat, which, you know, as an actor, that's when I get my biggest joy, is, you know, make me break a sweat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I remember as an actor, directors saying, don't change one word that is written in your script, because the writer has blood, sweat, and tears into those words. And even an and a the, like, they chose that on purpose. It's not up to you to change it. It's up to you to tell their story. Yeah. And I've always, you know, felt that way since then as an actor, and then especially now as a director, making sure the actors know that as well. You know, be true to the words. You know.
That's absolutely true. The one of the things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
No, it's all right.
One of the only things that I think, as a couple, as a writer-director team, that we've had an issue with has been stage directions. So he is very good, like you said, about making sure that they say exactly what I have written as far as the characters are concerned. But he is big on crossing out any single stage direction that's in a script, and says, that's my job as a director to do that.
Yeah, that's what I got paid to do.
But to me, as the writer, the stage direction is just as important as the words that the characters are saying. Because, like you said, there's not a word that hasn't been thought out in terms of a speech. It's the same for stage direction. If I said, this character moves here, it's because I want them there for something specific that's going to happen. Now, I know all playwrights don't do that, and all plays don't do that, and some stage directions are just completely superfluous, but not all of them are, and I wish more directors would actually take a look at them instead of blanketly just crossing them off.
Oh, no. But that's the whole thing. Thank God they're there, because they give us the information that the words the characters say don't have. At the same time, when I work with actors, especially young actors or actors who are not as experienced as others, one of the things I tell them is, like, you're welcome to look at them, but cross them out, because that's not what you're going to be doing. We're in a different place. We're in a different time. You're a different group of people. So you need to understand why your character's doing what they're doing and when they're doing it. You need to understand that. But that may not necessarily be what you're doing. You might move differently. You might behave in a little bit of a different way. But no, they're absolutely important. And I used to be a lot worse trust than I am now in making my actors get rid of them. Mostly because it's part of my job as well as a director that I found out. One of the things that she taught me was it's part of my job too is to take that information and help the actors interpret it. That's part of my job. That means that previously I would just say cross it out and forget it because that's not what you're going to be doing. And later on I got to the point where take a look at it, but please understand, don't get married to it. When we're working together as actor, director, technician, designer teams, we may have to change some things. So make sure you keep it in pencil.
And the other thing that I learned from him, if he's going to say what he learned from me,
Mm-hmm.
I learned from him to kind of start streamlining or eliminating stage directions that weren't necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So I write far fewer directions in my plays than I used to, and I think that's because of Tony.
No, part of it is that we all kind of, whenever we start looking at pieces of paper with words on them, we start running a movie in our heads. And yeah, we do.
Yeah, we
do. That's the way people are, especially nowadays and in the technology world that we're in. Everybody starts running a movie through their head. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so one of the things is making sure that that's the thing that I love most about live theater is that the movie's never the same. I mean, there are classic movies that you can watch over and over and over again, and every time you watch it, you can find a little bit more about it, like, you know, Casablanca, stuff like that. But live stage, you could go to a show every single night for 365 days a year and never be the same show twice. Lou told me a story. I don't know if he ever told you this one, Larry. He played Sancho in the Harold Weeks tour of Man of La Mancha, the national tour. Right. Played Sancho for 7 years. And the night that they did their final performance, he and the muleteers and the cast all went out to a bar and they got totally wasted. And he was sitting over talking to one of his friends, and out of the corner of his ear, he heard the muleteer sitting over in the corner going, "You know, there's this one scene where we could have, even after 7 years." You know?
I believe it.
Yeah. So yeah, I do too. And I think that especially good writing and good actors and good teams makes it possible for that. It's why one of the things that Larry, I know you're teaching, and Kathleen, I'm not sure. Are you involved in education or?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool, because one of the things that I'm finding is a lot of the skills that we learned along the way, a lot of the basic things. I'm not sure how it is with writers, but I know it is with actors. A lot of the basic things that we learned are sort of falling by the wayside, which is a real shame. Yeah, this is a new technology that we're dealing with in a new media format and all that kind of happy crap, but basics are basics. You still got to have them.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. I was really happy to see a lot of folks coming up with all kinds of online interactions and different ways to use the technology, and that's great. I just hope that people, as we're moving forward, don't forget that all this technology had to start somewhere. Right. Even if it was a bunch of guys sitting around a cave talking about the buffalo they killed.
I mean, you can put it on Zoom and do all that, but there's something different about being backstage, waiting to go on. You're just never going to replace the theater experience with technology.
Right.
No, that live interaction with an audience, that immediate feeling of feedback, that knowing when you've got them in the palm of your hand, right. And that they're walking beside you as you're going through the play, that they literally are walking beside you. Right. That's why I love working at Theater in the Park, is because their audience is always in your lap. And there's, that's one of the most amazing things, is that no matter what you're doing from the entire time that you're on stage, from the moment you walk on, the moment you walk off, somebody's watching. So even the little things.
And that's one of the things I missed about the Hamilton film on Disney, which I looked forward to. Couldn't wait. It was amazing. Okay. But one of the things I missed the most was if you're in theater for a long time, there's you know that there's always somebody on stage that you kind of pick that you're going to watch
Right.
throughout a show. You're going to follow them, and they're not going to say a word, but you're just going to see where they go on and off, and something about them as a performer interests you. And sometimes it can pull your eye away from the main characters, and you just watch that person. And I missed that about the Hamilton movie because it forced you to focus on specific things that it wanted you to see.
Yeah.
And you didn't have the view of the whole stage to kind of pick that thing that you wanted to watch. So that's one thing I miss about live theater.
We'll get back there.
Yes.
When you were actors, do you have a bad audition story for us?
I don't. I just didn't audition enough. So
Yeah, you ain't got enough time.
I'm sorry.
I think, yeah. I think probably one of the worst ones. Well, no, it wasn't. Well, it wasn't. Because I ended up getting cast. One of the worst auditions was Alan and Naomi in Wilmingwood. Yeah, that film with Lucas Haas. Gosh, it must be over 25 years ago now. At any rate, I went to the audition, and by that point, I had a pretty good idea of how to handle film auditions. And I went in, and I did everything but tap dance on the table. I did. And I looking back, and as I look back on it, I went, I really, I was way over eager. And at the end of the auditions, they just sat there and went, thanks. yeah. And I walked out and I called my agent and I said, well, I've blown that audition. And 2 weeks later, they called and cast me.
Wow.
But, oh yeah, when you never can tell. But for me, it was at that point, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have to do that every time now, regardless of what they do. And at that point, I almost went, well, I can't do this anymore because I just ain't got that. Yeah. And then a bunch of my friends went, well, look, if you're going to do it, do it. And if you don't, don't. But if you're going to do it, you might as well do it all. Yeah. So even at auditions now, when I work with my actors, I'm like, if you're going to audition, when you walk out of the room, don't bring anything home with you. Leave it in the room.
Yeah.
Everything you got.
Mm-hmm.
You and I were probably both in Wilmington when Firestar first came into town in Wilmington, right? And you and I were both theater actors. I remember people were saying, "Are you going to be in the movie?" It's like, I'm a theater actor. They're not going to call me. And then I got a call. Yeah. Can you come in? And I walked in. They said, "Oh, you don't have a beard." It's like, "Oh." That's all it takes. And they cast Scott Davis, who had a beard, who's a great actor, but he was more of a painter at the time and stuff.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Bearded student. There you go.
Oh my God, I love that. And that's one of the things that has probably been the hardest thing to convince people, especially kids. No, I take that back, especially the parents. Is that there may be 50,000 kids that look just like you. So if you get cast, great, and if you don't, it's not because you're terrible. It's just because they found somebody else who had a beard.
Right.
Kathleen gets that all the time. She works with, she directs children's plays and teaches classes, and occasionally parents will call her up, right?
Yeah. Why did my son get cast? I know he's great. Well, yeah, but it also is a director's choice, and there's a lot that goes into it. It's putting a puzzle together. Doesn't mean you aren't good, but you didn't fit exactly right. No.
That's right. Exactly. Just because you're not on this team doesn't mean you're not going to be on the other one.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard. It's hard not to take it personally. You have to have an extremely thick skin to understand that it's out of some of that casting is out of your hands, and it doesn't matter how talented you are, and you just have to roll with it. And not everybody has that thick skin.
Well, part of that I think is, and you guys can back me up on this, part of that I think is because one of the things that I'm finding, especially with my younger kids, is that they're not given that much opportunity to fail. When we were coming up, part of the classes that we took, they made it possible possible for us to fail and not be a personal comment on our talent or whatever. And nowadays it's like, if you aren't the absolute best, then there must be something wrong with you. No, one of the first things I do in especially in my advanced classes, one of the first things I do is when they walk in the door and say, listen, your job in here is to mess up and mess up hard and mess up now, because if you don't, I'll stick my foot out so you do. Because better you mess up, better you mess up here, better you find out here with the people around you who can show you how to fix it, than out there when, it could cost you a job. Anyway.
That's good advice, because sometimes we want to go in there and just be brilliant from day one, and everyone say, "Oh, you're great." It's like, oh yeah, Is there a role you've always wanted to play, Tony?
Oh, geez. I've been really lucky, honestly, Larry, because there aren't many roles that or let me say that there aren't that many types of roles that I haven't had an opportunity to play. One of the lovely things is I love Shakespeare. So at some point in time, I'd love to be in every single play he ever wrote. And one of the things I found was that there's a series that I watch that has interviews with classic actors, and there's one in there with a young guy who played one of the Henrys, and he said, the thing that I love is the fact that as you grow, you find more. The minute that Shakespeare's work speaks to you at whatever age you happen to be at.
That's great.
And yeah, it is. And one of the things that, I kind of look forward to, hey, man, none of us are getting any younger. And one of the things that I've really enjoyed is the fact that as I've gotten older, I've gotten to play older and older roles. And I'm going, you know what, I couldn't have done this 20 years ago. Because, I played older people. But I couldn't have done, I did okay. But I didn't bring the things to it then that I could bring to it now. And as I get older, the thing that I look forward to the most is playing those guys. I got cast as a young person. I got typecast a lot as policemen and Nazis. I was blonde hair, blue eyed. Yeah. And I got the nose, so there you go. But I got cast a lot of those roles and then maybe paranoid for a while. And then I went, it's okay. It's what it is. And as I get older now, I'm really looking forward to those older guys that I'm going to be playing. Because now I actually think I can bring the things that they need to them.
Right.
I haven't got to Lear yet, but I'm heading there. So if I'm really, really, really lucky, I'll be around long enough to be able to get that.
That's right. Well, either as an actor or a playwright or a director, what do you think is the best type of actor to be on the stage with your direction, your play?
Wow.
I don't know that I have a
type of actor.
Yeah, because I don't know that there's any.
One that'll be kind with your stuff, right? One that will with your words.
Yeah, you just want someone who's open enough to hear what you're trying to say. And so I think any good actor is a playwright's dream.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's probably one of the biggest things is an open actor. I can support an actor who's squeamish or scared. But it's almost impossible to open an actor. It's almost impossible to teach somebody during a rehearsal period how to be open and share. So that's probably the one thing that I look for the most is it doesn't matter how much experience you've got, but if you're willing to stand up there and be absolutely open, then there's not a director in the world who can't work with that. If they can't, then they're not a director. Larry, I think it's one of the things that you and I have one of the reasons why I think you and I have been that way had known each other for so long is because you're that way, man. When you walk onto a stage, you don't care. You just do. And that's one of the things that, that as an actor that I absolutely respect, and as a director, I love, because that means that whatever I've got in my head and whatever the writer had in their head, we can make it come alive because somebody's out there sharing it.
I'm still scared to death, but I actually have a story.
Hey man, we all.
Yeah.
Tony and I did a play, and we were a couple in the play, and we were very young.
Mm.
And I asked Tony for a picture of him, and I put it by my bedside every night at home. I don't know why I did that. I guess I just wanted to make sure I was connected to Tony's character the whole time. You must have thought it was pretty weird. If you
No, man. Oh, yeah, I remember. Are you kidding me? Yeah. At first I thought, okay, that's a little strange. But once we got into rehearsals, brother, no, I completely understood it, because every time you looked at me,
right.
Every time you looked at me, you were looking at me.
Right.
And as an actor, brother, you have no idea how much that helped. Because, yeah, we were both young. And knowing that I had somebody who was not just there acting, but paying attention to me, made a huge difference, man. It made it possible. Yeah, I remember that.
We all have great moments on stage, and Adrienne, you might want to talk about being backstage or as a playwright. Can you guys both tell us some great moments?
I don't know. I think the first time you hear an actor say your lines on stage is probably the top. Not in a rehearsal. I mean, rehearsals are great and necessary, but the opening night, the first time an audience is seeing your play that you wrote, that an actor is actually speaking those lines. And actually, I should take that back. It's not that they're speaking the lines. It's when that actor becomes that character. The lights go up and you can see their shoulders kind of drop and their head cocks a little bit. And then they walk on that stage, and you know before they've even stepped one foot on stage that they are that character. And then they say your words. It's unbeatable for a playwright. That's the pinnacle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very funny, when I go to opening nights with her, I usually end up spending more time watching her than I do the show. No, because I can tell. Yeah, I can tell. I know how much it means to her, and I can tell when they hit and when they go, yeah. Watching her is more fun for me than watching the show. Yeah. Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, wow. There are two. I'll do a quick version. One is when I played Paul in a chorus line and gave that monologue. And the first time I walked out in front of an audience and did it, because I was scared to death. And I got about halfway through it, and I could hear the audience sniffling with me. The first time that happened, I went, I'm good at this. The first time that happened, it let me know that, the first time that happened, that I actually got a chance to move people like that, I went, okay, I'm in this for the long run now. If I can do that to people, then I need to. And then the second time was working with David Wood on Richard III, and being, being the third night into it and walking out on stage, and there was a moment when I was, because he had set it up that way and so had the cast, there was a moment there where I literally forgot, absolutely forgot what the next thing was that was going to happen. I had no clue. It went completely out of my head. And at the same time I went, that's okay. It'll happen. And when it did, I went, all right. Yeah. Yeah, that's when I knew that if things when things come together right, they're right. And if you get the right writer, you get the right team together, and you pull it together, get it in front of the right audience, then nobody knows
Right.
what's going to happen next. And yeah, I'll never forget that.
You know, when you were talking about being Shakespeare at a certain age, I was thinking about Richard, about how differently you would play that role now, as opposed to when you played it, 15 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know if I could. Yeah.
Close.
Yeah, close to it. I don't know if I could or not. I mean, I probably could, but yeah, the things that I brought to it then were they're parts of me now, and I know who that guy is, and I know what those parts are. And although I could play it, I'm sure it wouldn't be the same, because when I was doing that role, that was the very first time I found those parts and put them together that way. And yeah.
What is the funniest thing that ever went wrong on the stage?
Yeah, I don't know if we have time for that either.
I don't have one. Well, I mean, the one it didn't go wrong. It was just not what I expected. From the rocker, the hospital scene.
Oh.
Yeah, that wasn't wrong. So we won't go there. But
no, but it was.
Yeah. Sorry. Side note.
Yeah.
You directed that, right, Tony?
Yeah. I did. And you have no idea how scared as I was. I really, really was. Age had watched me do a few other shows by that point in time, so I was on safe ground there, because she knew what I was going to do, pretty much. But it's hers.
It was the first play that I had ever written, period. And then it got produced at Theater in the Park, and he got picked to direct it. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
The challenges for me were, because he knows me so well, I think there were things that he thought that he knew he thought that I was trying to say in the play that I maybe wasn't necessarily trying to say. So he went in certain directions that it wasn't that I didn't agree with them. They weren't where I was intending them to go. So those choices weren't wrong at all. And the play was great, and it was a great production, and it got very good reviews, but it just wasn't in the way that I thought it was going to turn out. So it's not that was a wrong.
No, but it was
thing.
different from what
Very different.
Your invention. Yeah. And that's part of it. We work together sometimes, but not really a lot, because I think, there is such a thing as being too close to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that affected some of the choices that I made, I know. But
yeah. He is a great director. And I learned how to work with directors, and primarily from working with him. He taught me a lot about the interaction, how it is to work with, because a lot of playwrights don't get to work with a lot of directors don't get to work with live playwrights. Let me rephrase that. So the whole experience of how we talk to each other versus how the cast talks to him versus how the cast would talk to me, I learned so much on that play from him because of that. So that was a great experience.
It really was.
Yes, as different as it was.
But there I have been so many. Yeah. Oh my God. Where do you start? Being on, Larry, you may know this one. Being on stage with Luke Riscola. Being on stage with Luke Riscola. it was almost like you were taking your life in your hands every time you went on, because there was absolutely no telling what he might do. Mr. Roberts.
Oh.
And I don't know if you remember that or not. Yeah. We did Mr. Roberts, and I was one of the sailors. And Lou was like the, what do you call him? The guy he's the sergeant guy.
Right.
He wasn't a big guy. He wasn't a little guy. He was somewhere in between.
Right.
And we got caught. The captain called us all on deck to do, to line us up, to dress us down for something. And after the captain left, Lou came by and just went and waved at his butt like he'd let out gas. I have never seen 12 guys dive for as many exits as they could find to get off that stage. Because the captain had just dressed us down, and we were all supposed to be chagrined, and and all of us were busting. We were absolutely busting out laughing. Literally, there were people diving for portholes on that one. There have been, yeah. That's the nice thing about live theater, though, is because you have no idea what's going to happen next, or what's going to go wrong, and how it's going to get fixed, and how many times you're going to go repeat the scene of the act 1, scene 3, because you forgot and you had to go back and pick it up.
I only lost it one time on stage, and because it was you were on stage, we were doing the Stamp Act play for Doug Swink's wife. It was for senior citizens. And I don't think we were young. I don't think we were committed to the project because we were just doing it for senior citizens. No. But an actor grabbed Tony and threw him in the chair, and Tony did the chair, and I just busted out laughing. I just lost it. You just slipped in the chair, and I just broke out laughing on stage. So I can never say I never lost it on stage because of that one moment.
Oh my God. Oh my God, that was a heck of a summer, dude. That was a heck of a summer.
If you guys couldn't do what you're doing right now, acting and writing plays and directing, what else would you want to do in the theater profession?
They're doing it all.
Right.
We're doing it, yeah.
Yeah, in some way, shape, or form, I think we've got, a production company covered.
There you go.
If you guys could go back in time and talk to the younger version of yourself, what advice would you tell yourself?
Wow. I would tell myself to not listen to external criticism as much as you do, because I in my younger days definitely let that impact whether I was going to be an actress or not, whether I was going to be a writer or not. I've been writing most of my life in some form or another, but when I got to college, my freshman year of college, I did poorly on a specific creative writing project. And I went to the creative writing professor and said, I'm thinking about doing some form of writing in my future, and I'd like to know how I can improve this, and can we have a chat about, writing and writing styles and all of that, just to get some general feedback. And she looked me dead in the eye and she said, don't bother. You're not that talented.
Wow.
Oh my God.
So whatever else you're thinking about doing, just stick with that, because I don't see anything in you. And wow. I was 18 and I thought, okay, well, she knows best. So I didn't. I put my pen down, and I don't think I wrote anything creatively for probably about 10 years. Wow. Just because I thought I took that in as the truth. And so thinking now about how much time I lost not writing because of what one person said, I would shake 18-year-old Adrienne and say, don't listen to this. What does she know? Right. She's one person.
Right.
Don't let her define who you are. So that's what it would be for me.
Wow.
I don't think I ever told you that story.
No.
Yeah.
I would want to go back and shake your teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've thought about trying to see if she's still around, just, to let her know, but nah, there's many
It's
do
not
that.
worth it.
It's not.
No.
It wouldn't be the same
about you?
satisfaction because they would just say, well, you became a good rider. What can I say?
Right.
Yeah, if she even remembered me, I'm sure if I was insignificant enough for her to say that, then she
Right.
might not even remember saying it. So.
How about you, Tony?
Wow. I would go back and tell myself, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You got this. Yeah, you're going to mess up, but nothing that you're going to do is going to end the world. Yeah. Listen, you guys don't know. There's not many pictures of me before the age of 18 without this. Because until I went to chorus and did the whole Oliver thing, I barely spoke above a whisper. And my rehearsals were mostly about, can you speak up, please? So we can hear you. So it took a bit for me to be able to get up on stage and actually do that. And I think if I'd go back in time, I'd say, don't be afraid, you got this. Yeah, you're going to look like an idiot sometimes, and yeah, you're going to mess up, but the world's not going to end.
Right.
And you're going to do more good than bad.
What's the first thing you guys want to do when we get out of this pandemic and can go back to some type of normal life?
Go into a rehearsal. Walk into a theater with the house lights on and a set being built and actors blocking. That's what I would want to see first, I think, or be in that presence. Hear a saw in the background and smell paint and watch characters being created on stage. That's what I want. That's what I miss the most.
And I want to do that in the middle of the biggest venue we got. I want to stand in the middle of the PNC Arena with 40,000 other people and yell and scream. And and watch somebody do a show or listen to somebody sing. That's what I want to do. I miss that whole thing of us all being together. Mm-hmm. And things like this are great. They really are. Mm-hmm. And thank God we got the technology, because if we didn't, we'd really be screwed. But I miss that. I miss that a lot.
Communion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been just wonderful getting to know you, and it always brings back a lot of memories for Larry and I, no matter what, because it just brings us to our youth and our growing up in theater. And so I thank you for sharing all those wonderful, wonderful stories. Yeah. Thank you, Larry. Thank you. And you guys, hope we get to meet in person someday soon.
Bye, guys.
Us too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.